I noticed you do have a picture of yourself up with a Green Lantern ring,
Yeah. It was the ring that the DC Comics gave me in New York. Yes.
which you then followed that up with a sketch of Jon Stewart
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
same
yeah,
pose.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm assuming you're working with Jeff Thorne.
Yeah. It's great working on Jeffrey.
Yep.
He's doing a great work with the characters. I can't say I can't say too much, but I can say to you that it will be pure TNT because there are a lot of characters, lanterns, and it will happen a lot
I
since the issue number one.
Welcome to the Comics Cube, everyone. Today I am joined by Marco Santucci. How are
Hello,
you?
everyone.
How are you doing?
I'm fine. I'm fine. Even if we are a little tired with this pandemic around, but we are we are strong, so we keep going. We keep going with the work. We keep going with our lives. So it's good. It's good. Let's
And
say it's good.
you've been vaccinated, right?
Yeah, yeah. I had my first shot of the AstraZeneca,
Mm-hmm.
and no problem at all. So I hope it will help with the
We're
situation. Obviously,
we're
a bit.
near. We're near.
Yeah.
Okay. Comics. What got you interested in comics as a fan? Like what made you start reading?
Oh well, obviously, like all the people that is working in the comics field, I always read comics since when I was a child,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that what I like of the comics is the storytelling. Essentially is the same thing that I like about the movies. I like to not only to do or to see the art. I like to see art that is telling a story. This is a very important point for me. In fact, when I was a really little child, I started to draw, and I remember that when I was drawing, I not only tried to draw something, but I tried to tell always a story. So even before I started to be able to read or write, I tried to tell a story with my drawings.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the storytelling aspect of this work. And still now is the most important thing for me. The most important thing is telling a story in the clearer way. I want that the readers understand perfectly what's going on. I prefer to make something more clear than technically perfect or beautiful. I think that the story is always at the first position of my priority when I work and when I read.
Did you have a favorite comic when you were a kid?
Yeah, actually, I started to read comics with the at the beginning with the Disney comics in general, you know, Donald Duck, Mickey Mouse, and whatever. But I'm my favorite comics was when I was a young boy was Spiderman. I love the
Mm-hmm.
Marvel comics. I started to read Marvel comics since I was a child, and I love them. I love them. I still love them. And yeah, Spider-Man was my favorite character at the beginning, but I love all the characters in general. I love Batman, Superman, Green Lantern. I love the Fantastic Four. I love um, a lot of characters. I have to say, I really love the American comics in general
Yeah.
because they are so dynamic. So I don't know
So
what to
cool.
express it.
Yeah.
Cool, really cool. I like them more
Spider.
than I have to say that I always love them more than Italian comics that are more realistic and good for the technical part, but sometimes mm, they are a little boring for me. So I prefer to work on the American comics in general.
Spider-Man is also was also my favorite character when I was a kid. So
Yeah,
we have
yeah,
that in common. It's just
yeah.
he's so different from everybody else.
Yeah, because I think that it's simpler to be near him because he's a very normal character, and I think that superheroes with the super problems is still a good formula.
Yeah,
I think that Stan Lee really had a really great idea, a great way to tell the story with the superheroes because. You don't you can feel many times like Peter Parker when you are a kid or
yeah,
a young boy. So yeah, I think that's why Spider-Man is one of the favorite characters for many people, for many readers.
absolutely. Who are your influences in terms of your art?
Okay, I have to say that when I decided to do this work, I decided it because I felt in love with the style of a very famous American artist, Todd McFarlane. In
Spider.
fact, yeah, obviously. And I remember that I tried to copy the Todd McFarlane's work in the early years of my career when I was trying to understand how to draw. But when I met my Italian master, he's one of the most important artists in Italy here. He suggested me to try to follow more classical artists like John Buscema, Neil Adams, um,
Alan
Don
Day.
Romita,
Yeah.
artists like that. That maybe when I was a little boy and I was in the 90s, they seems to me a little boring because they are too
Yeah.
much normal at my young eyes. But after a while, I started to study their works. I realized that they were the real masters of the comics because I really improved my way to work, my style. And after that, I started to follow other artists more the younger artists like at the time Alan Davis, Adam Hughes, Kevin Nolan.
Oh, nice, Kevin Nolan. Yeah.
And from Italy, I follow other artists from Italy like Claudio Castellini, that is one of the Italian artists famous all around the world. But again, Claudio is strongly influenced by Jean Buscema and Neil Adams. So
You can tell. Yeah.
everything come together. And I like the work of Claudio Villa, that is one of the most famous artists here in Italy with his work on Tex. Tex is a very famous series here in Italy. And Fabio Civitelli, that is my master, the master, the real master that taught me a lot about this work. And there could be other artists, but these are the main ones.
Very, very, very cool. Like I was 8 years old when I discovered Todd McFarlane. I was 8 years old in
Yeah,
1990 when they
yeah,
launched Spider-Man #1. So I understand what you
yeah,
mean. I thought it was really cool, and then you discover the ones that you don't think are cool, and then you realize just how good they really were.
yeah, yeah.
Like,
I remember the stories by Todd. The first story he wrote besides drawing it was Torment.
yes,
Yeah, for me it was a blast. It was a blast because I loved that way to work in so adrenalinic way. But I think again, I tend to repeat it all the time. I think that one way to understand how to do this work is not trying copying the artists that are famous in this moment, but the master that taught this artist how to draw.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Yeah.
that is always a good thing starting from the classical ones. After that, you can start to evolve in your style. But anyway, this is my short story.
That's very cool. What is the difference between the Italian comic scene and the American comic scene? Like just the way it's run, or is it the audience? Or
Oh, well, okay, they are quite different. First of all, because in Italy we have few big publishers for the comics, like obviously Disney, but we also have Sergio Bonelli Editore, that is a publisher that is publishing a lot of comics, uh, but mainly they are all in black and white.
Mhm.
At the least, the main part of the Sergio Bonelli Editore publishing is about the black and white. And this is good for the technical part, because I think that before thinking in colors, we have to start to thinking in black and white. It's very important for an artist. And Bonelli comics are very good comics in terms of quality, in terms of stories, very realistic, and obviously it's also more difficult to draw them, because you always have to face the reality around them. You can do too much interpretation of the things. They are very straight on the way you can on the way about how to say that, in the way the characters are look like. So
Mhm.
you can change the character. You can do too much interpretation of this character. So you have to use all your artistic skills to try to make this character so realistic in a good way. Um, for the American comics, instead, they want that you use all your skills and your artistic part to give your own interpretation of the characters. And this is good for the creative part. Sometimes I think that is not good for the how to say that, not the quality part, but sometimes if you use too much, you have too much freedom, you can do good thing but also bad things. So
Yeah.
you have to stay focused to do a good product. And so I try to bring my European Italian experience in the comics field inside the American comics.
Mhm.
And I still want to keep drawing the American comics in a European way. At least I want that there is always a part of the European style inside my work, American works. For me, is very important. And anyway, the bigger difference is, as I said, is that Italian comics are in black and white. The American comics obviously are mainly in colors.
Mhm.
And maybe the story of the Italian comics are more realistic. For example, in Italy, we don't have superheroes. It's not something that is about the Italian culture. And we have comics about the horror stories like Dylan Dog. I don't know if you know Dylan Dog.
I
They
know Dylan
made a
Dog. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, they made a movie, terrible movie, some years ago. It's nothing about the comics, that movie. And we have Western comics. For example, Tex is one of the most important characters here in Italy. He's really famous. He's also famous in Brazil and around in other countries also. But in Italy, Texas sells a lot, still sells a lot. We have sci-fi, for example, Nathan Never is the sci-fi characters of Sergio Bonelli Editore. Dampir is another horror series, is one of the series I drew. And there are a lot of characters. The list is very long. And mainly I worked on Mr. No, that is one of the Sergio Bonelli Editore characters, Dampir, and Tex. When I drew Tex, that is the most important one, but also the most difficult one, I decided to do American comics because actually I don't like Western. I prefer the superheroes. So I totally decided to pass my work on the American side. Absolutely.
How did you get into American comics, the business?
Well, as I just said, I decided that when I started working on text for Italy, and it was around 2006, and it was about 10 years that I was working in Italian comics field. And in that period, I started to working on text, but as I said before, I didn't like it. Actually, I didn't like it. I know he's famous, a great character, whatever, but I don't like Western. Sorry. And at that point, it was possible to work for USA more than before, because it was the first years that we have internet, where the communication was simpler. So I tried to send my submissions to Marvel Comics, thanks to Simone Bianchi, a friend of mine, a great artist and colleague. And Simone show my submission to Marvel Comics for me. Thanks again, Simone. And I waited for a while, but
he's great. He's great. Yeah.
He's great. Yeah. And Simone told me, Marco, they told that they love your work. They want to work with you, but after 2 months, no signals, no mails, nothing from Marvel. And I thought that it was nothing at that point. Instead, after 2 months, they wrote to me and they asked me to work with them on Spiderman, my favorite character.
Your favorite, yeah.
And but the problem that was that I still was working on text, and I was working on a huge story because it was a 330 pages story.
Wow.
In Italy, yeah, it's normal because in Italy we have books of about 100 pages every month. And obviously every month.
That's crazy. Yeah. Every month?
Yeah, wow. Yeah, obviously, every month, every 2 months, 3 months, the artist of the series change, because in every series you have to think that there are about 10, 15 artists. And to do a single story, a single book of Tex or Dylan Dog or Dampy or whatever, you spend about 6, 7, 8 months. So the artists change from month to month. It's different from the American comics, where usually you make about 20 pages of 20 pages book. So it's simpler to stay on the series. In Italy, it's impossible in this way. So they change the artist every 1, 2, 3 months. And so everyone have the time to make a good work on that series. And when Marvel contacted me, as I said, I still was working on text, and I had still about 6 months of work to close the book. So I was doing something that I didn't like, but From the other part, I have something that I really liked,
Yeah.
but I have to wait. I asked to Marvel to wait until I finish the text story, because for me, even if I don't like the project I'm working on, for me it's very important to be professional. And when I started a project, I want to finish it. This is very important for me. And by luck, they waited me. And when I closed text, I started to work for Marvel on the Spider-Man Secret Invasion miniseries. And from them, I started to work on Spider-Man, on X-Factor, on Captain America. In the meantime, I was working also for Italy. So in some period, I was working for Marvel, some period I was working for Sergio Bonelli. And for one period, I worked for Sergio Bonelli and the French comics, for example. It changed a lot because I don't like to work always on the same thing.
Yeah.
So I like to change because I think that it's very important to change the genre, the book, the character, the situation where you are working on, because it's very important for the artistic part. Because if you keep working for years and years and years on the same stuff, at some point you start to repeat yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And this is not good for the artistic part. So I like to change. And from this point of view, I have to say that working only for the American market is good, because even if you are working for the same publisher, the same market, every month you change the character, you change the genre. Obviously, they are always superheroes, but first of all, they are really fun. I have a lot of fun working on them. Second thing, I can change the background, the characters, and everything. For example, I drew in the last period. I worked on Endless Winter.
Endless Winter, yeah.
Yes, and it was about the Viking era, and so it was a more an historical situation. After that, I worked on Flash, on a Flash issue that is coming out in about 3 days. Flash in a prehistoric period, for example. So again, something different. Now I'm working on Green Lantern, so in something more sci-fi. And I drew aliens, starships, alien worlds, and it's fantastic. Every time you can change everything. So artistically is good, very good for me.
Do you prefer drawing big icon characters like Spider-Man or the Flash, or do you like drawing people like the Viking Prince, Hippolyta, Kamandi, Omak, Starfire?
Okay. Well, obviously, I like to work on main characters because they are obviously more famous. The more people knows them. But to tell you the truth, from the artistic part of my work, I like to work on always in something new, something different, and I like to do. For me, it's important to make a good work in general. The characters is not my priority. I want my priority is make that specific character at the best. For example, when I worked on Generation Force,
yeah,
obviously it at the beginning was a little tricky because it was a story made by several artists. So you can draw only a segment of the story, and it's like to enter in a room where the party is already started, and you at the beginning you don't know what to do, and in that case, for example, I never drew Kamandi, never drew Starfire and the other characters, so it's I started to study of the characters, the background, the everything, and I spend a lot of time to do that, just because I want to do them at the best. For example, I studied a lot how to make the look of Krypton, for example. They wanted a classical look of Krypton. So I studied the classical look of Krypton from the old books, old comics, and tried to make it more modern, a bit modern. Okay? So
Yeah.
everything is something different. It's very funny for me.
Okay. Do you have a character that you don't like drawing?
Hard question. I don't know. I don't
No?
think.
Okay.
Maybe, to tell you the truth, maybe I'm not comfortable maybe with the too much cartoonish characters. For because since I draw in a very realistic way,
Yes.
I tend to draw them in the more realistic way as possible. So I don't know if they works in that way, but I tend to do that. For example, if I ever drew, for example, I don't know, Rocket Raccoon,
Yeah.
probably I do a real raccoon, because for me he looks in that way, but I don't know
Yeah.
if it works. Or for example, I don't think that I would be the best artist to draw Deadpool, because it's too much ironic, too much um,
Too much it's he's too cartoony,
too
basically.
cartoony. Maybe,
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Maybe never draw him, but only in commissions. But I think that there are specific characters that work better with more cartoony artists, probably.
I
And
understand.
yeah, yeah. And sometimes the cartooning artists are not able to draw more serious stories. No, I don't know. I don't know. Every artist have good skill to do specific genre.
I'm gonna ask you about a character who's on my wall.
Shazam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was that working relationship like with Dale Eaglesham?
Oh, it has been great, because Dale is one of the best artists in the comics, the American comics. I think he did a great work, and for me, has been a honor working with him. And it's fantastic. I took a lot of inspiration from his work. Absolutely, absolutely. So I love to do them, and I love to work on Jeff Jones scripts.
Yeah. What was it like working with Jeff Johns?
Yeah, it's fantastic, fantastic. The only problem was that the series was going too much slow. So at some point, I had to change the book and jump on Swan Thing, because
Yeah.
the script wasn't arriving, because Jeff was really busy with the series on TV, and so it was too much slow. So I asked it to make something else. In the meantime, I was waiting for the scripts, and they put me on Swan Thing that I
Yeah.
really loved. And thanks to Swan Thing, to the Swan Thing pages, is a fresh news. They nominated me for the Inkwell Awards, because I submitted my pages from Swan Thing, and they nominated me.
Very cool.
Yeah,
What is it like? Because Swamp Thing is very different from all of the other characters. He's visually speaking, he doesn't look like any of them, and he's got
Swan Thing.
yeah, Swamp Thing. What
Yeah.
is it like drawing Swamp Thing?
For me, actually, to tell you the truth, it was easier,
Really?
because it wasn't the first time that I was drawing a swamp. Because I drew that in for the Italian market on on the Texas stories.
Hmm.
I drew for 330 pages as one. So when I started to work on one thing, it wasn't so difficult for me. And I really like to draw natural backgrounds. So it was very fun to draw them. I sometimes I prefer to draw natural backgrounds instead of, for example, cities or something more technical. Because is when you draw something natural like trees,
Or
plants,
plants,
whatever,
yeah.
yeah, is you have more freedom. You can move your brush with more freedom. So it's
You
very
don't
funny to
you don't need a ruler.
actually, absolutely, yes, yes. And I like it because I worked a lot with the black and white, with the chiaroscuro, that thanks to my Italian experience is a very important thing for me. I like to use a lot the shadows, the chiaroscuro. You can play a lot with them. So it's I really love to working on one thing.
And what can you tell us about Flash number 768?
Okay, obviously I can't tell too much. I can tell only the obvious because some of the pages that will be inside the book are already DC already shared some pages from of my pages about Flash, and you saw that they are placed in the prehistoric era. They are about Wally West, and I can tell you that it will be a really funny sequence. I really loved working on that pages for many reasons because they are full of great backgrounds. I worked on them with a different technique because I started to work with the gray tones in that pages. So
Yes.
they start to be more, let's say, paint. They have a more painted look, and I like to paint. So I try to put my experience in painting inside the pages. And so I played a lot with the chiaroscuro, but this time with the gray tones. So you'll see a little bit different work from my usual work. And I feel blessed because I had a great colorist on them, and
Yeah.
I'm very happy for the final result. So I'm very happy for the work, absolutely.
And are you happy that it's Wally West? Or
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
not
I really do.
because I know like there's a fan debate about whether it should be Wally or Barry.
I can tell you how the story will goes because my part
Yeah.
is in the middle of the book. I don't know what happened next. I only know what happened in my pages.
Uh,
But I think that you'll have a lot of fun reading them, and you'll see that, as I said, also the colors are fantastic because Arif Prianto did a great job on them.
I do notice that DC uses you a lot for segments in a book. Um, Endless Winter, you were doing the flashbacks.
Yeah,
Generations Forged, you were one of the several artists, and you focused on
yeah,
Starfire, Omak, and Commandi.
yeah.
Is there a particular book that you'd like to be? You know, would you want to be on an ongoing book for a longer period of time?
Okay.
Because
Well,
because I'm asking that because earlier you were saying that you want to jump around and do different things. So
yeah.
yeah.
Oh, well, I love almost everything, I have to say. At the moment, I don't have a specific character where I'd like to work. Maybe Batman. I'd like to draw Batman. Absolutely. I'd like to try my skills on him. I already worked a bit on him, but not the classical version. I worked on the Injustice version of Batman,
Yeah.
and I loved working on it. But it would be a good try to to work on Batman. I have to say yes. I have to say that I really loved working also on Flash. Flash is very dynamic. It's funny to work on Flash. He gave me the chance to experiment a lot with the
Yeah.
special effects, with the backgrounds, the blurred backgrounds. So I loved working on it.
How
Absolutely.
how do you do the blur in the backgrounds? Do
With the
you
great tones,
with the
with
gray
the great
tones?
tones, I have had the chance to create the blur effect. Obviously, usually when the colorist the colorist can do it, or if you work in digital, it's very simple to
Yeah.
create the blur effect. But since I love, and I for me it's important to working on paper, I tried to create the same effect but more organic with the gray tones. And
Hmm.
for me, it works better. It's less digital because the digital is fast, but for me is not so great. I prefer to working on paper in the classical way. That's why I am not so fast to stay on ongoing series,
Yeah.
because I do around 15, 17 pages at month.
Mm.
So I can do ongoing, or they can maybe one day they decide to give me an ongoing series and wait for for my work. I don't know. It would be great. For the moment, I'm working on Green Lantern. Since
Yeah.
I'm sharing the book with another artist, I can stay on a ongoing series without do all the book. Also because the book is 30 pages, it's not 22, it's 30 pages. So it will be a bigger book. And for me, it's fantastic.
Green Lantern. I noticed yeah, I noticed you do have a picture of yourself up with a Green Lantern ring,
Yeah, yeah, it was the ring that the DC Comics gave me in New York. Yes.
which you then followed that up with a sketch of John Stewart
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
same
yeah,
pose.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm assuming you're working with Jeff Thorne.
Yeah, yeah, it's great working on Jeffrey.
Yeah.
He's doing a great work with the characters. I can't say I can't say too much, but I can say to you that it will be pure TNT, because there are a lot of characters, lanterns, and it will it will happen a lot
I
since the issue number one.
I know you can't say too much, but I also know that you saw that I have an interview with Jeff Thorne. So for anyone watching this, if if you want to know more, you can go watch that interview after this interview.
Yeah, so he is able to say more. I am only the artist.
He one of the things he keeps saying is one of the things he keeps saying is anybody who is on OA while he's writing the when the issue starts is not safe.
Yeah,
Is
it's
that true?
true. Yeah, I can tell you that for sure, because you'll see, you'll see. So, I think that I'm having a lot of fun working on it, because, as I said, it happens a lot, especially on the issue two. Issue one started with a blast, but issue two is even better. It's great, great, absolutely.
What's it like? Because I know, like, I just asked you about all of these other characters, drawing icons versus not, the more obscure characters. What's it like being on a Green Lantern book with a lot of aliens, all with a Green Lantern ring? Like,
Yeah.
does it? I mean, are they all lanterns that already exist? Do you have like reference? Do they give you?
Yes,
Yeah.
they gave me a lot of references, but and obviously you will see the already known lanterns, but you will see also other lanterns.
Hmm.
And
Did you make
and
any new ones?
oh, I can say nothing.
Okay.
Okay, I can tell you that you'll see a lot of races of aliens. I spend a lot of time doing, for example, a scene where there are so many aliens and characters and different elements that it took me a lot of time, but I'm very proud of that page. So you'll see.
You- and you said you're working with another artist on it. You're splitting the job with another artist. I think that's Dexter Soy.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
what's the working process between you and Jeffrey and Dexter? Do you guys talk on Zoom or do you send
Oh,
emails to each
actually,
other?
we talk with the emails.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Usually, when you work on a book with another artist, the rule is that every artist take a specific segment of the story, because every story, especially the story where there are more than one character, have different storylines at some point. So every artist to take a specific storyline and follow that. So obviously, in some points, the storylines can cross, but usually they are divided. So it's simpler for the artist to work in that way. Obviously, it's very important that, and I do it a lot, that every artist, when he do the pages, send the pages. In the meantime, the production is going on. For example, there are some characters that maybe are present in the Dexter pages, and then are in my pages. So look they have to look in the same way. In fact, at the beginning, it was hard because there are some special costumes that are shown for the first time in the book, and I didn't know how to draw them. So Dexter made the how to
Yeah,
say that,
he the model sheet or
the
yeah.
model sheet, and for that characters I have to follow them, and for other characters I did the model sheet for other characters, or other I drew other characters that later have to appear in the Dexter pages. So
Yeah.
it is a always an exchange. We keep exchanging the information.
And what about with Jeffrey? He's like
Yeah,
he's an enthusiastic man.
absolutely. Yes, absolutely. I like his way to work because he is very accurate, and I love it because he, he he writes a lot of description of the pages of the panels, and for me as an artist is very good because I don't see it as a limit. I want that the writer explain at the best to me what's going on, how he wants the scenes to look like, and for me it's very important. And so working with Jeffrey is very good for this reason. And he's always enthusiastic about the pages that I'm sending. And I also like that you want to that the specific character have to look in a specific way.
Mhm.
So in general, I think that every project where there is someone that say, okay, this thing that have to be in this way, and the artist have to follow them. Because
Yeah,
if everyone start to do whatever he wants, it became a mess.
it's a mess.
Instead,
Yeah.
this project is very focused, very focused.
He likes details. He likes
Yeah,
details. And you
yeah, yeah,
have a
yeah.
very detailed style.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Actually
But
really
until
good.
they send to me the references is good.
Yeah.
I have no problem.
And that's very cool. I'm actually really glad about that. I'm glad that you're working with Jeffrey because
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love it. I
that's
love it.
that's
Absolutely.
that seems like
Uh,
such a fun fit. Okay, you teach comics art, and
yeah.
of all the students you've ever had, who's your favorite, and why is it Maria?
Exactly. Is Maria. You, um, well, my best ones are Maria and my former inker, Patrick Piazzalunga,
Hmm.
that worked with me for some years. But I have to say that obviously Maria is my first one, also because I I talked to her and I'm trying to talk to her everything I know. And I am very proud of what she's doing because she's growing uh, in a very fast way. She's a great student because he accepts a lot the critics, and I am very critic about the other works. Also for first thing about my work, I'm very critic. I'm never satisfied of what I'm doing, and I am very I do a very strong critic about my students because my first master was very critic. So for me, it's very important that you have someone else that say to you what's not working with your work and why. The magic question, the magic element is why, because a real master have to be able to say this is not good and this is good and why this is not good and why this is good. It's very important. And Maria, from this point of view, is a perfect student because she's always open to the critics, and she used them to improve her work always, all the time. And in fact, she's growing and growing from the artistic part. And I'm very proud of the work she's doing for DC Comics, on Wonder Woman, on Batwoman. I'm
Yeah.
very proud of it.
How did you feel drawing the cover to her Wonder Woman sensational?
Oh, it has been great. I think that Maria already told to you about that.
Yeah, I want to
But
get your thoughts on it.
yeah, yeah, I'd like to do it more and more if it would be possible because to tell you this, the truth is the first time I think that we worked in that way with the no, not the first time actually. I already drew a cover for one book, drew from where she was the interior artist
Hmm.
for Dynamite, for a Sheena book, if I'm not wrong.
Okay.
I drew some covers for Sheena for the books that Maria Laura was drawing for the interiors. But obviously, Wonder Woman has been another level experience.
It's Wonder
Uh,
Woman.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's Wonder Woman, and I worked I worked on that cover in a different way with the gray tones. I did a painted cover, so for me it's great, and it has been colored by Arif Pianto, that is one of my favorite colorists,
Hmm.
and the final work came out great. So I'm very happy for the work we did together, Maria, Arif, and me.
What have you learned from her?
A lot,
Yeah.
because as I said, it's very important when you work that there is another artist that can tell to you this is wrong, this is good, and why. And even if Maria is a younger artist than me, she already have the skills to see. where are the problem of the someone else art. So it's a very good that we are working in the same house, even if in a different studios. But from time to time during the day, we I go upstairs or she go to downstairs, and we exchange our opinion about our works. It's very important. And one of the main things that I learned from Maria is the how to draw the women, because she's very good in drawing women. Instead, I'm better in drawing men. And sometimes when I draw women, I I tend to be a little stiff. So many times he gave me suggestion about the pose, how to make the women more natural. And for me, it's fantastic. This is a very important thing. I think that I grew a lot since I'm with Maria, because it's very important this exchange
That's
between us.
that's normal though, right? I think it's normal for a male artist to be able to draw men better and female artists to be able to draw women better. I mean, I think there's some exceptions,
Yeah,
but
obviously, like Adam Hughes, for example.
like Adam Hughes, yeah,
Adam Hughes is a monster in drawing women.
yeah,
I prefer, obviously, to see his women instead of his men. But obviously, he's a great artist in all the fields. But obviously, the women's are his best part.
yeah.
I think that this is absolute, absolutely. And but I think that the women sometimes have some problems in drawing men, because they tend to make them too, how to say that, to uh, eh,
It,
I
it
don't know the right
it
term.
it is interesting. Your exception is Adam Hughes. Her exception is Nicholas Scott. So you named the
Nicolas
male
Cole,
art.
yeah,
Yeah, you named the
yeah,
male artist and she named the female artist. That's
yeah, yeah,
interesting.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because sometimes the women tend to make to draw the women to oh, wait,
Slender, thin.
wait, I try
Uh,
to find the right word. Too smooth, too sharp.
okay. Yeah.
They tend to draw the man too sharp, too smooth. Instead, you have to make more signs on the man's face. Otherwise, they look like a child.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Instead, when you draw women, you have to keep the face clean, because otherwise, when you put a sign, became uh, a wrinkle, and is bad for a woman. So yeah, it's a different way to, 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 to draw the characters. But I'm trying to do my best also in drawing women.
Yeah. I think
And by luck, Maria is my model many times for my women, for my pin-up, for my covers, for my characters in the comics. So I'm lucky.
and she told me you were the model for her male characters. So
for an old guy
you're
in Wonder Woman.
you're your own model for Jon Stewart. So that's okay.
Yeah, well, I am a quite different, but I try to do my best. I try to do my best. Actually, my main model for the face, the model that I'm trying to look at for the face, is the actor. Let me see. I don't remember the name. Uh, Michael B. Jordan. I'm trying
Really?
to take a look to Michael B. Jordan for the Jon Stewart look, because I always try to use a specific reference for the main characters.
Mm-hmm.
I love the word, for example, Brian Hitch did with Ultimates. I mean, after Ultimates, Nick Fury became Samuel L. Jackson,
He's the reason
even in the
Samuel L.
movie.
Jackson is Nick Fury.
Yeah,
Yeah.
even in the movie. I loved Ultimates. I loved Brian Hitch. And
Yeah.
I think that all his work is amazing. But Ultimates, was the top for me. And I really loved the movie sensation that you have when you look at the afterwards. I
Mm.
really like it, and I really like to draw comics in that way. To see, I think to the comics like a series, a movie, for me is very important, and that's why I love the work of Brian H. And I still try to follow that kind of storytelling and style.
I think especially the way Brian drew clothes, costumes. It was
Yeah,
just so different from the way anyone drew costumes before him.
yeah, absolutely. And I think that the those years was were the best Marvel years for me because at some point, to tell you the truth, I stopped to read American comics after the 90s. The 90s for me is one of the worst period in American comics because everything was too much exaggerated, too much adrenalinic. Um, Everything was too much. And at the beginning of the 2000s, instead, when the Ultimates came out, I saw this artist that was working in a so realistic way, in a so European way. And I thought, wow, it's possible to draw American comics with realism. And I
Mm.
like that part. As I said, I prefer to see realistic artists instead of cartoonish artists. But obviously, there are good artists in the cartoonish way also. But I prefer to look at the realistic artists, and that's why I still try to bring my European experience in American comics because I want to see the superheroes something realistic, something real. So I love that, to see them in that way. And I think that especially with in the last years with all these movies, this series,
Mm-hmm.
mm, is when I saw comics too much in a drawn in a too much cartoonish way, for me strange because I started to be used to see the superheroes, on the TV, on the
Yeah.
cinema movie screen. So for me, they are at this point they are too much. They are real, and I want to see they real in the comics also. So
Unless it's Rocket Raccoon. No, I'm kidding. No. Uh, um, are there any additional things you would like to plug or mention before
oh
we go?
no, I think that maybe I spoke too much. Sorry if I spoke too much,
No, no,
but
it's great. It's great. I love it when people speak. So,
thank you. But no, at the moment I can say the only thing that I can say that I'm very satisfied with the thing that I'm doing right now, and uh, I hope to keep going with the Green Lantern for a while. I hope that you all love Green Lantern, but I'm sure of it. I'm sure of it because, as I said, Jeffrey is doing a great work with the story, and so that's all. I'm satisfied from the working part of my life. Absolutely.
Flash 768 out on March 16, and Green
Yeah.
Lantern is out, I think, next
On
month
April
in
next
April.
month.
Yeah,
Yeah.
April.
Yes. Yes.
So, thank you for joining the show, Marco Santucci.
Thanks to you. Thanks to you. And thanks to you for saying my name in a good way. In a good way. Yeah. You say it right.
Well, that's because I heard Maria say it. So, I'm like, okay.